What's up, everybody? So, I know, I don't look very presentable. I have a bleach stained Curious George shirt, boxes in the background. What's up? Are you trying to be taken seriously, or are you just trying to look like the most poorly dressed individual known to mankind online? Well, we're moving and packing. I'm just like saying, hey, if I dress nice and that in the background, that looks just as bad. I mean, I think we can all agree on that, right? So, what is the topic of today's discussion for a different perspective? Is civil commentary. Yeah, I just didn't make it flow. So, anyways, let's carry on. The show must go on, right? So, the topic of today, we're going to go ahead and discuss The Wave, 1981. It was a made-for-TV movie directed by Alex Grasshoff based on the third wave experiment put on by teacher Ron Jones to explain to his students how the German populace could accept the actions of the Nazi regime. So it's pretty much used with this interaction I had with these two individuals. They're streamers and they've gotten political. They utilize this film to discuss our current situation during the pandemic. Uh, I was able to ask a really good question, and they really you can be the judge for it. I'm going to show you the video clip here in a little bit, but I'm like, why are you using this as a comparison to our situation, the pandemic? I really don't understand how groupthink, because they label it as groupthink, could be easily be compared to Nazi Germany. And I'm like, well, if we're having to face a contagious pandemic, virus, COVID-19, all that, we need to think as a group because it's contagious. It can't just be defeated by 10 people, So I just really didn't understand their logic. It wasn't a fair comparison to compare a virus to Nazi Germany. So I give them a really good example, and they're just like, well, we're not trying to compare anything to the Nazis, but the wave is based on that. So let's go ahead and look at the video, and we'll have a discussion just after.
Wow. A different perspective. Civil commentary says, I don't see how this video is a good comparison to the pandemic. We're able to reference other nations. Israel is preparing for another lockdown next month. Are you comparing them to Nazis? No, no one's comparing anything to anything right now.
Okay, well, I you can just see him laughing that one off. By all means, watch the video. I'll put a link below the description, and also watch the full video of Craig and Brad so you can get full context. I mean, I'm all about, hey, fact check me, man. So it's just funny how he just giggles that off. But hey, man, I just showed you the description, and watch the video yourself, and you be the judge.
At all. I don't think so. But Brad, you go ahead and give real quick your thoughts on why you wanted to watch this.
Look, I think this movie is just a good example of how groupthink comes together. I think it's relevant because we've spent the last 5 years saying this is like the Nazis, this is like the Nazis, this is dictatorship.
I agree with Brad. There's a lot of people that get really emotionally charged and just spout out accusations and label people with words that they don't know the definitions to. And you're just going to have to excuse Brad. He has bad audio, so it's not me, it's his audio, and he'll just have some glitches with his audio throughout this video. But I believe the term that's really relevant in today's politics is authoritarianism. So let's go ahead and continue to watch, and we'll discuss later.
If this is fascism. And it seems like there's a lot of things happening right now that people recognize as fascist dictatorship, and people are kind of going along with it. I mean, if you look at everything, if you look at what's happened over the last year, we went from 15 days to slow the spread. Everybody in the entire country or world needs to get a vaccine, whether they like it or not. That's how it's connected. How did we get this far? Well, strength through discipline.
Strength through discipline is a chant they say in the video after they said, oh, we're not trying to compare it to anything. I mean, the thing is, they're a little wonky with that explanation. You can just see Craig getting a little red, and Brad is just spouting out his talking points. And I don't know. I think Brad's a sweet man. I'm not trying to dog him, but he's not really consistent with what he's trying to say. And I'll go ahead and back it up. So he's like, how are we doing this worldwide? Well, I'll tell you, because of right wing authoritarian countries. Which countries had the most issues with the COVID pandemic? India, Iran, uh, oh gosh, Brazil, Turkey, the United States, and China. I mean, all these countries are authoritarian. And, you know, the right wing mentality of how to deal with this pandemic based on my personal experience is just, just like, don't think about it. Just forget that it exists and it'll just go away. And you can see that resonate through a lot of our politicians. They're just like, well, just get back to work. I mean, I'm in Texas, and that's exactly what they were doing. And then it went up a little bit, and they started blaming it on border issues. So it's just like, you can't blame it on border issues because it's happened in other right wing ran countries. So it just, the facts don't back you up, man. And that's why.
Right? So I don't know. I live in Israel. I don't live there. Ask them what they think.
Well, that's the end of that video clip. But yeah. And what was interesting when I was Google searching this video, I think Craig expresses throughout this stream that he's really annoyed how people compare him to a right winger. Well, the material that you guys are using, the content that you're using, the wave, when you just did a simple Google search, you see y'all's video and you see the actual video, and then you see some QAnon people utilizing that video too. And if you know anything about QAnon, they're right wing. So if you use the same content a right winger uses, you're probably going to be mixed in with them. So that's just to answer that question that Greg asked the audience one time throughout his stream. So the next video clip is they responded about the effectiveness of masks. And it's pretty obvious that Greg did not do his research just enough to know which was the best mask. But let's go ahead and hear what he has to say.
You want to manipulate it, right? People talk about, oh, the science, right? Well, people say the science of the mask will slow the spread, right? Flatten the curve. And sure, if you're wearing the what is it, M95 or M98 or whatever it is mask, that like the yes, if you're wearing those masks, sure. But the cloth masks, they're very, it's been scientifically shown that they don't do a whole.
This is the part where Craig is going to struggle a little bit because he obviously didn't do the research. And that's fine. You know what? Craig is a good representation of a guy that's giving his opinion out in good faith. I think the majority of people in our country are as informed as Craig and Brad. And what they're doing, like I just want to say, I'm not trying to downplay their opinions, but, I do research more than the normal person. I mean, I like talking about politics. That's what I like to do. But cloth mask, they have an effective rate of 50 up to 70%. So I think that's, pretty good, along with social distancing that will almost definitely increase it closer to 100%. So whatever we can do, we should do to make sure we tackle the pandemic. But let's go ahead and continue to hear what he has to say.
A lot, so.
Yeah, I mean, like that was kind of look at how many times Dr. Fauci has flip-flopped that. Now, I don't want to get into the big old mask debate. That's a whole other episode. That's we've done it. We've talked about it. A different perspective says people were taking off the mask, taking the mask off until the variant came, Brad. Maybe some people did, but it seemed like the general consensus.
Let's go ahead and address what Brad's about to say, because I think Brad focuses on a very vocal minority. And, if you're on the internet, if you're an internet content creator, if you're going to go ahead and expel, beliefs that are not popular, and rather they want to admit it or not, right-wing talking points or rhetoric about the pandemic is not very popular take to have in this country. And that's why a lot of them play the victim card, because they kind of get bullied online. And that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to present the facts, and if they disagree with it, that's fine. But at the same time, you can see how they're having problems articulating their cases because they haven't done the research. They're just relying on their personal experiences and feelings.
We're just going to leave it on because It's a kind of acting a safety blanket more. I'm going to keep it on because just what I just said. I don't want people to think I'm this. I don't want people to. It makes me feel better. It makes me think that same things I just said. Same.
You want to manipulate it, right?
So, so let's go ahead and get a little bit of time out there. You know, it is what it is. There's facts out there. If you want the answer to your questions, you can always go to a reputable World Health Organization website. It's just not Dr. Fauci. He's not the only source. And has he slipped up? Yeah, he has. Is he politicizing some of the things? Perhaps. I don't know. But you can't really have like a magnifying microscopic uh, suspicion on everything that's made by big pharma. Am I a big supporter of big pharma? Heck no. Big pharma was a legalized cartel there for a while with the opioid crisis. So by all means, research, look at the data, look at the effectiveness of the vaccines that are being produced. uh, and Craig does make a point that I'm not really sure if you can sue any vaccine uh, makers, distribution places, whatever. But Craig did mention that you can't hold these people accountable. That's why he doesn't feel comfortable taking it. I'm just questioning, can you hold any other people that make vaccines accountable too if they're approved by the FDA? I mean, I don't know. You're kind of forced to take vaccines before you send your kids to school. And plus, if you're in the military. So it's just like one of those areas where you're just like, okay, you're right. But does that apply to the other things that you've done too? Why are you just so extra cautious with this particular vaccine that's kind of necessity due to the pandemic right now? But there's people that are just not wanting to take it for whatever reason they have, and it's nothing new in this country. You should do some research with some of the propaganda images they had for polio. I saw this one image of a nurse showing like the headlines of a newspaper: polio vaccine works, to somebody that had polio that was in a suit that was mechanical lungs. And they had this one big room where they had a lot of children inside mechanical lungs. That was encouraging people to get their polio vaccines back then. So it's nothing new to fight the hesitation our country has with vaccines. So call it ignorance, call it, fear, whatever. But I think the best way is to prove your case by having a conversation. And that's what I'm trying to do right now. So let's go ahead and look at the next video clip where I give them statistics. And right away, Craig is just like, I think throughout his stream, he was like saying people can manipulate statistics. And we're about to see Craig manipulate the statistics right in front of our faces. So let's watch.
Question was, I saw this different perspective. Says, Brad, have you been watching the COVID rate in Florida and Alabama? Statistics are a legit tool. Let's take a look at them real fast. I feel like that's something, I would check these numbers out when it was going down. I think it's fair to look at them when they're going up. Here is the new cases in Florida. You can see the case here in Florida. The 7-day average, 19,000. I think more.
See, I like how he just was very transparent about like, hey, when they're going down, I referenced them. But look, when they go up, he's going to find a way to justify his narrative, his belief, his ideology. And I'll go ahead and elaborate why it's important to reference COVID statistics, not just because people are dying, but for other reasons. But let's go ahead and continue to watch, and then we'll discuss.
Main thing, cases are nice. I think
high.
the more important thing is deaths. And while there may be more
deaths are
cases, the
pretty high in
deaths.
Florida, too. Florida has been in a hot, seat for a little bit right now with COVID due to their leadership. And you can see that the death toll is rising too. But then you're going to see Craig switch off to something else pretty fast.
The death average is down. Now, obviously, it is going up, right? But I think ultimately, this is the number that everybody should be worried about, because cases are one thing, deaths are another. Let's take a look at that Alabama case really fast. The average day.
He just goes to the death, but he needs to look at the COVID rate too. And one of the things that a lot of people that just focus on death don't realize, I mean, an analogy that Craig uses is like, this doesn't move the needle. Well, how does the needle initiate movement? How can we tell the storm's coming? I mean, if you have to prepare for the pandemic, and a good indicator is the rise in COVID rates. And one issue that Craig just completely ignores is the reason people are surviving COVID is because they're being able to be treated. And he has amnesia. I mean, he's a North Texan just like me. A lot of hospitals reach capacity in our area. And if that happens, he's going to see the death rate go up.
7-day average of deaths is 13. With all due respect, that to me does not move the needle.
Now look at there's the statistics of the COVID rate going up in Alabama.
Like the cases, okay. One thing, sure, that's fine. This is the number. I mean, it literally doesn't move the
Just
needle.
plays it off.
Like literally doesn't. So to say, that's
I like Brad's facial expression. He's like, this is the first time I've seen this. Oh, dang.
it's not just a play on words. It literally does not move the needle up at all.
That's
You
the
know,
needle.
this is moving the needle.
Oh, boy. See, now that's a hard, I think Craig's being a little stubborn there. He's not being very charitable or just proactive. I mean, that's a sure sign that, hey, man, there's something coming. We got to prepare for it. Florida has a large population of elderly people there, and then you got a lot of people that go there to party. And, what people don't realize when you get COVID and you just overflow to hospitals, you contaminate the whole area. And there's going to be people with underlying conditions that need to be hospitalized too, people that break their legs, other medical emergencies that need to be addressed, but they're going to be taken over by people that have COVID. And people that have COVID want to have their liberties by denying other people their liberties. So, I'm all about personal liberty. I'm all about your choice. But when other people's liberties infringe on my liberties and other people's liberties, I think it's only fair to say, hey, perhaps we got to think about the common good. We got to think what helps everybody. And if you think like that, this whole video that they showed, the wave, incriminates people like me, like being a Nazi. And, I do a little pushback on this next video because I can tell what they're trying to push, what their intention was. Maybe it wasn't meant in a bad way, but it's pretty obvious if you ask me. So let's watch the next clip where I do a little bit pushback because all these people are groupthink, and there's a great example of people that do a lot of groupthink in this country. So let's watch.
You can't touch him like that, sir.
That's pretty
No.
funny.
Story based on a real high school experience, a class in Palo Alto, California in April 1967. Wow. That was quite the watch. Like I didn't have a whole lot of commentary to add to that because what do you add to that? That may be the most important after school special in history.
Like I said, 40 years later after it was made, we're still watching it going, ooh, getting a little close to that.
See, in the beginning, they said they're not comparing it to anything, but they're comparing it to the current situation we're in.
Now, the interesting thing is I know we got people in the chat. I'm going to say, I don't know. We'll just do 50-50. 50 of you probably watched that and took away one specific message. The other half took away the exact same message, but are putting it into a different bucket. And what I'm seeing here is...
If you watch the video, the whole objective is for people not to follow someone else's lead. And he's making a video so we can follow. And I'm one of the people that are not following the lead of the video. So it just looks like Brad's following Mr. Ross.
Let's see. A different perspective says, who wears matching uniforms and goes to rallies? Well,
and these people are Brad and Greg are not clueless. I don't know. People wear uniforms. If you see red and you see a baseball cap and you see MAGA, you can find a whole rally of those people. And yeah, when elections don't go their way, they like to siege our capital. So yeah, let's not forget that.
Well, I don't know.
What do you mean
Do
you don't
people wear
know?
matching uniforms right now and go
I
to
think he's
rallies?
playing dumb right
I
here.
know that there's a lot of people that are, the symbolism I took from there was not really uniforms.
Did you see that pivot right there?
It was these little things everybody is wearing when they go to.
Okay, so he does not like masks. Just say it, man. Just say it. And these people, they're from the same area I'm at, and their school district's going to mandate masks, so they're probably definitely not going to be happy in the near future.
Gatherings. I don't want to say it. I want you to think.
So they're anti-mask and anti-vaccine. Well, I can't speak for Craig, but I think Brad's a little bit further on the right than Craig is, because Craig is a lot more reserved. It's just my opinion, but he looks a lot more uncomfortable than his brother right now.
But
Hold on, real quick. This is the ending. Let's see. Let's see. This is the. I'm looking for the wave, the ending, real quick, because this is apparently. Well, I'm trying to find it on YouTube because apparently it's the German version of the wave. But apparently the ending is different. So, anyways,
yeah.
yeah. Whew, man.
So we have look.
I mean, I don't get no pleasure. I mean, I love Craig. I mean, I think him and I would probably get along. We didn't talk politics just fine, including his brother. But his expression is like, "Ooh, man!" It's like I just want to know what's going through his mind right there. He's pretty red.
I'll just come right out and say it. Look, some of you are going to watch this and think, "Oh, the wave is the Trump people."
Yeah.
Some of you are going to watch this and you're going to say, "Oh, the wave are the."
They refer to themselves as the red wave or something one time to counter the blue wave. I mean, to be fair.
The vaccinated people. Or you're going to watch this and say the wave is the anti-vax people. And, I really want you to think about what you just watched. I really do. I'm not going to make up your mind for you. That's not what I'm here for.
So, it's all cool, whatever perspective you have. But one of the things I encourage people to do is to just genuinely try to articulate, elaborate on your opinions based on the facts that are available. Yeah, stay away from CNN, stay away from Fox. Oh God, stay away from Newsmax and what other crazy avenues are there. I mean, to be honest, I wish I would have some good faith right wing or conservative folks out there that could give me, because one of the questions I'm really curious about is where do you get your news from? I'm very transparent where I get my news. I reference social media from leadership. For example, Ted Cruz is my senator, so I'll follow him on Facebook, on Twitter. So anything I get that I agree or disagree with him, it comes from his mouth. So it's pretty easy not to misinterpret the news I get from Ted Cruz if it's from Ted Cruz. And you can do that with all your politicians. And you could reference the World Health Organization. You can reference FBI statistics, any statistics that are from the government. And I think that's something that most people can agree on as far as data is concerned. And I get a lot of my commentary news from independent political pundits on YouTube. I like listening to Sam Cedar, who debates people all the time. So he's getting his views put to the test often. And I listen to David Pakman, which he definitely has been in a couple of debates with reputable right wingers like Ben Shapiro, Charlie Kirk. Same thing with Sam Cedar. And, I just hear their ability to articulate their case based on facts and their ability to communicate. and it's impressive. I'm sorry. And also, I like listening to Vosh, who is another YouTuber that just does a really good job of articulating cases. And I'm just like, wow, I didn't think of it that way. And he's a socialist, a libertarian socialist. So it's really fascinating to see how he articulates his case with people that are just so against him. And what's really interesting, he had a debate with Charlie Kirk, which Charlie Kirk was conceding a lot of takes with Vosh and also coming into agreement with a lot of things Vosh had to say. They talked about CRT, and Charlie Kirk didn't even want to have anything to do with that conversation because Charlie Kirk was using the talking points and Vosh was actually using the legitimate definitions that go with critical race theory that are not being implemented at a mass scale like right wingers want you to think. And they like using their coined term wokeism. And I think that applies to both to the right and left, in my personal opinion. But anyways, it was just really fascinating to see those two go at it, and they respected each other, and it was pretty cool for the most part. And the moderator was a Trump supporter, so I suggest that you guys watch that. I'll go ahead and put the link to Craig and Brad's full podcast for this episode. I'll also go ahead and put a link to The Wave and a link to that Vosh and Charlie Kirk debate, which you should check out about COVID. So all that's relevant. Inform yourself and get your debate on. It's awesome to have good conversations with people that know a little bit. And even if you don't feel like you're on top, you learn something. And I like being amongst people that can humble me intellectually all the time. So you know what? That's how I learn. So that's another way I learn, just talking to people. So hopefully you enjoyed today's episode, and hopefully we can get a good conversation with Brad and Craig in the future. And they're good guys, pioneers in making internet content, and we'll see what the future holds for a different perspective. But right now I'm moving, so who knows when it's going to happen. All right, later, Gator.